Hello. Hello and welcome to another segment of Ask the Coach Live. This is Alan Goff. I am your coach for the time being during this call. Well, get your act together, Al. Use your words. Collect your thoughts. Anyway, welcome to another Ask the Coach Live. Remember, you folks can ask me a question anytime you want. You can find me on any platform that is convenient for you. Send me a DM, send me a message, make a comment on any post that I have, and ask me your comments. Ask me your questions. Hey, Al, would you tackle this on the next Ask the Coach Live? Al, what is your opinion about this? How would you advise me about that? Send your questions in anytime, and I'll address them on a soon and upcoming Ask the Coach Live. Today might be a bit of a controversial, if that's the right word to use, subject, one that might kind of get your goat a little bit, might get you a little bit defensive, but hear me out on this one. This is a subject that has come across my path probably 3 times at least in the last week. And I don't know about you, but when something comes across my path 3 times, that's when it catches my attention. It's like, okay, there's a pattern here. 3 times means something, at least for me. Maybe this is something that I need to address. Maybe this is something that I need to talk about. And I'm going to share a little story that goes back a number of years in a moment that'll really solidify my stand on this. But before we do that, I was in a store recently and trying to, do a transaction at that store. And an employee, turns out, ran into the store, just comes through the front door and runs up to the counter, comes back around the counter and is taking off their jacket and apologizing to the other staff that's right there trying to do business with customers like me, apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, and trying to get themselves calmed and trying to get themselves gathered and trying to get themselves in the flow of work as quick as they can because they're a couple of minutes late. But what do you think happened in the environment at that time? It just brought chaos. It just brought chaos and disorder to everything that was going around. The store was quiet, not, quiet, but it was calm. And we were getting waited on. And yes, they were down a person, but it was a good atmosphere. And the moment this person came in, it changed the whole atmosphere of that place. Why? Because there was panic and chaos and rush and hurry because somebody was late. And it just kind of rubbed me wrong. And I guess as a business owner myself, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's run teams of people and led teams of people and had influence over teams and staff, and as a coach, it just kind of bugged me, and I got in the car and I thought, man, if I ran that place, things would be different. Anyway, so it was. I also went into another place of business, again, recently within the last week. And something similar happened. I walked in and the person that was waiting on me took a little bit longer to wait on me than what I kind of wanted, but she was very polite and she was very apologetic. She goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We're a little bit understaffed today. We have another person that's supposed to be here. They've texted. They're running late. They're not here on time. So I apologize that we didn't get to you on time." And again, what was the impression that I was left with? The impression that, I don't know about you, but the impression that I was left with was first like, well, I appreciated the fact that this lady would try to comfort me and say, hey, I apologize that maybe we didn't wait on you as quickly as we could have or as we should have or what you were expecting. I appreciated that. I'll come back there. I thought I was treated well there. But another impression I got was, well, why is it acceptable for staff to show up late? It's like the first one at the coffee shop is actually where I was. Why is it acceptable at any place of work for someone to show up late? It shouldn't be acceptable. That should not be acceptable. And again, you know me, I'm a bit of a weird duck, and I think differently than a lot of people, and I'm probably going to go down some goat trails on this one. But it really makes me think, when I enter into an employment agreement with an employee, here's what goes on in my mind, but then this is the conversation I basically have with my employee when I bring them on at time of employment. Now, I set very, very clear expectations, and I say that these three things have to be in place in every relationship you have. It doesn't matter if it's an employer-employee relationship, whether it's an employee and another employee relationship, comrades together. It doesn't matter if it's a husband and wife relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a parent-child relationship. These three things should exist regardless of what relationship you're in. And I say especially in the employer-employee relationship. And let me, hang on a second, I'm distracted just a little bit. I'm going to move this. And these three things should exist: clear expectations, timelines, and a consequence. And let me unpack that for you just for a moment, and then we're going to get back on track. I'm sorry I'm taking up a side, but I think it's important. As a business owner, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, again, you need to set very, very clear expectations of the people that you hire to bring onto your team. And one of the very clear expectations that I have is around showing up on time and what I expect. Let's go back to the three things first. Clear expectations, timelines, and consequences. So you need to set very clear expectations of what you expect of your employee, what you expect of your team, what you expect of them. It's when you show up and what you're going to do here when you show up and how long all of those things. That sounds really rigid, but hear me out. And because you're setting a bare minimum expectation of the level of performance and productivity that you expect that the business requires of that person to be done in a certain way at a certain minimum level of expectation to drive the business forward so that the business can achieve its goals. And that's very, very necessary. Oftentimes, business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders don't have that conversation with new team members when they bring them on, and then they're frustrated because the level of expectation that they have for that team member has fallen, but yet the team member doesn't know that. And that's not the team members, that's not the employee's fault. That's the leader's fault for not setting the clear expectation. Okay, so I trust you get that. So you've got to set very clear expectations and be very detailed about that. Have the conversation open long enough so that you get dialogue and feedback from the new team member, from the employee, so that you know that they understand what the bare minimum level of expectation is, and what's, and then you document that, and when you're satisfied that everybody is on the same page, you document that and you keep that, because you might need to come back to that at another time if performance and productivity begins to dip. So clear expectations need to be set. Number two is the timeline that you get to set, that you require, that this person has as a ramp up to get to that level of expectation of performance and productivity in their role. And so you might set, I don't know what that is, but it's also a timeline that needs to be set if an employee or a team member has dropped in performance or productivity, and you have that crucial conversation with them about performance. You come back to the conversation about clear expectation. This was the clear expectation that we laid out. Remember when you were hired and we had that conversation, and here's the document that of that conversation that says you understood that conversation, you signed off on that, and your performance has decreased. So now we're coming back to this conversation of expectation. How much time do you think is required for you to bring your level of performance back up to at least the bare level of, minimum level of expectation, if not higher? And you get to maybe feel that out and have that negotiation with your staff member, with your team member. Great. Now the third thing comes into play, and that is a consequence, if necessary, if that person doesn't come back up to that level of expectation within the timeline that either you've set or you've negotiated together. Okay, so clear expectation, timeline, and consequence. But then you've also got to remember, you've got to have the backbone, the fortitude, the chutzpah to pull the trigger on the consequence, whatever that consequence is, if that person doesn't come back up to that level of expectation that is required of them in the timeline that has been set and negotiated for them to meet. I think you get that. And I'm kind of rambling. I'm going down the goat trail, but I'm going to try to bring us back now on that. And so, where was I? Anyway, so back to, I look at these situations that I saw in these local businesses, and I thought, has the employer, has the leader ever set clear expectations for the employees? And if they have, is it time for them to come back? Do they need to revisit clear expectations? Do they need to talk about timelines to come back up that level of expectation, and what's going to happen if they don't? Because here's what I have to think is true. No leader, no business owner, no manager, no boss, whatever title you might want to put on that person, thinks that it's okay for somebody A, to either be late or just show up on time. Come on, let's be real with me. If you are a business leader, if you are running the business, and you are managing your staff, you're leading your team, is it really okay with you to have someone show up right on time? And I say no, it never should be. And I remember back in the day when I was running a staff and teams of people, what began to happen was, let's just say that people are supposed to show up at 8 o'clock. Or not show up at 8 o'clock, but start at 8 o'clock. Your start time is 8 o'clock, or your start time is 9 o'clock, whatever your start time is. What begins to happen sometimes is people show up at the start time. They show up at 8 o'clock. They show up at 9 o'clock. And then what do? They take their jacket off and they go hang it up on the hook or in the locker room or whatever, and they're chatting with other people at work, and they're having to go down the hall to the lunchroom and get a cup of coffee to start the day, or they're going to go have a meaningless chit-chat down at the water cooler, and they talk about what they did the night before, and by the time they get to their workstation or to their desk or out to the shop or whatever they're doing, wherever they're going, and then they get in front of their, let's just say in front of their computer, and then they're going to sit down and they're going to look at their emails and decide what they're going to do that day. By the time they're actually proactive, productive, and profitable for the company, for what I'm paying them for, it's 8:15, it's 8:20. If they start at 9, maybe it's 9:10, 9:15. You kind of get it. And now that person is wasting my time and they're wasting my dollars when they should be on the clock, proactive, productive, and profitable, when they're supposed to be at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. I know that sounds hard line, but I have that clear expectation, and I talk about that if I have a team that I'm hiring staff for. Say, start time is 8, but that doesn't mean you come in at 8. And then you're going to do all of these other things. And by the time you actually begin to produce productive work, it's 15 or 20 minutes later. That's unacceptable. So when I say it's start time at, say, 8 o'clock, that means you're coming in at 1:45, you're coming in at 10 to. My dad raised me that way, kind of old school, and he used to raise me, and one of his phrases was, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're already 5 minutes late. And I adopted that, but I adopted that late. It sounds hard, and I'm going to tell you what happened. It was a very key thing that I have never forgotten, that absolutely changed my concept of this and my standards. And, I was the guy that for many years, you're supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, you're supposed to be here at 7 o'clock, you're supposed to be here at 9 o'clock, whatever you start, and you show up at 7 or 8 or 9, and you do what and I guess I didn't have the clear expectation, and that was kind of okay for me. And what began to happen was I got resentful, and I got frustrated at my staff. Sometimes I got downright kind of angry at my staff, but I realized I couldn't say anything to them because I hadn't had a previous conversation with them. I'm going to tell you about, I got to tell you about this situation. But before I get there, it's ironic because it was just yesterday. Here we are. It's what day is it today? It's Wednesday, the 20th of May. And just yesterday, I was on a coaching call with one of my clients. And that client was telling me kind of something very, very similar, that a culture was beginning to happen at their place of work where people, they have kind of, there's certain people that come in at 8 a.m. to start their shift. Certain other people come in at 9 a.m. to start their shift, and it didn't matter who it was and at what shift. The moment they were supposed to start at 8, that's when they were coming in. And these people, the moment they came in, when they were supposed to start at 9, that's when they were coming in. And she realized we had this exact same conversation. She goes, oh my goodness, this is exactly what's happening. This is the culture. And it's frustrating me. And I'm getting angry about it. I'm getting resentful about it. And I don't know what to do about it. I said, you've got to go back and have a conversation, maybe for the first time, and apologize to your team and to your teammates that you didn't actually have the conversation of clear expectations, timeline, and consequences, early enough. But now's the time to go do that. Because I truly believe that when we have somebody on our team, we've hired somebody to come into the business, and they're supposed to start at 8 or they're supposed to start at 9, they owe the company proactive, productive, and profitable time at start time. Not 20 minutes after, not 10 minutes after, not 15 minutes after, not 30 minutes after. Sounds hard line. But let me now reveal to you what changed for me. I can't remember what year it was, but I was still, it goes back to when I was running my oil field company. And again, I was a little frustrated in this manner. And I was in Hong Kong, and I was it was a holiday for me. I was in Hong Kong, and at the hotel we were staying at, I was down in the restaurant one morning, and I was actually ended up in a conversation with this manager there, this Asian manager that was running this restaurant in the hotel. And we were staying at a very, very nice upscale, 5-star hotel. And this manager told me, he said this, we fire employees who arrive on time. And I kind of laughed. It was kind of one of those nervous laughs. And I kind of chuckled. And I was kind of, because I was realizing I had staff at home who were just arriving on time. They were arriving at 8 a.m. when they were supposed to start. They were arriving at 7 o'clock when they were supposed to start. They were arriving at 9 a.m. when they were supposed to start. And so I kind of had this nervous laugh at this guy's comment. We fire employees who arrive on time. And then he explained why. And it completely changed how I see success. And it completely changed the expectation that I had for my employees and for my team. And it set a completely new standard, which had a really remarkable positive trickle-down effect that changed so many things for the good of my company. And it changed so many things for the good for each and every member of my team. As a boss, as a leader, your job is not to get your people to like you. And you can, what? Hang on a second. What did you just say? And why are you saying this? Let me preface it. Oftentimes we feel that maybe we shouldn't go and address and maybe be hard line like this that I'm addressing today with an employee, because if I actually went to my employee and said, I got a problem with you showing up on time, and I got a problem with you not only just showing up on time, but then by the time you actually get to productive work, it's quarter after, 20 after, half past, whatever. And I mean, I maybe need to have that with a little bit more tact and diplomacy than I'm having with you in this conversation. But I'm a little bit harsh because, that's just my style, but I want you to get it. I'm a little bit direct because I want you to get it. Oftentimes we don't want to have hard conversations or potentially hard conversations, but they're crucial conversations with our staff. Why? Because we want our people to like us. And we say things like, and I hear this all the time when I'm consulting for companies and I'm talking with leaders, I hear this all the time. Well, I don't want my staff to think I'm a jerk. I don't want my staff to think I'm a maybe a different, a B word, and I don't want them to think of me that way. And what they're kind of really saying is, I want my people to like me. Well, number one, that comes from only one place, insecurity. Quit being so darn insecure in your leadership. But it's not your job as a manager. It's not your job as a boss. It's not your job as a leader. It's not your job as an owner. It's not your job to get your people to like you. That's not your mantle. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility, your job, your mantle is to make your people better. And when you make your people better, they automatically begin to like you. Trust me, happens all the time. When you make your people better, they begin to like you and like you more. And that's where real trust and real respect and real commitment to the organization and to the team and to you as a leader really kicks in. All right, so let's go back to this fella that I was in conversation with in that restaurant at that 5-star hotel in Hong Kong. And again, he says, we fire people who show up on time. And again, I thought he was joking, but he wasn't joking. See, arriving on time, he said, arriving exactly on time means you plan to give us nothing extra. Oh my gosh. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. I'm going to say it again. He said this. He says, arriving exactly on time means you plan to give us nothing extra. Think about that. If you're an employee, do you show up right on time? Well, my boss says I'm supposed to start work at 8 o'clock, so I show up at 8 o'clock. I think this manager had it exactly right. We might not ever say those words, but in the back recesses of our mind, kind of especially in this era of quiet quitting, I think there is a quiet, silent message that we have to ourselves. I'm going to give this employer of mine the minimum requirement for me to come in and do my job, collect my paycheck, and leave. And I'm not going to give him anything extra. And I think that maybe, there's a truth to it for us as the entrepreneur, as the owner, as the manager, as the leader, that we kind of have that silent knowing in the back recesses of our subconscious and our heart that when somebody shows up on time, they really have planned to give us nothing extra. And don't you know it? Think about it. If there's people on your time that are showing up right on time, that's their way. They really don't give you anything extra, do they? They show up on time and they leave right on time. And maybe they even leave a little bit early. They're supposed to stay till 5 o'clock. But at 1:45, they're already cleaning up their desk and they're shutting things down and they're organizing themselves. And when 5 o'clock comes, they're already walking across the parking lot to get to the car. Arriving exactly on time means you've planned to give us nothing extra. That's what this manager said. In his company, arriving early wasn't about working longer hours. It was about ownership. That is so key. See, arriving early means you've prepared your mind. Arriving early means you've reviewed your priorities for the day and for your shift. Arriving early means you've entered calm. It means you're entering unrushed. It means no chaos. It means no scrambling. Remember the first scenario I mentioned where I was at the coffee shop and this young girl comes running in the door. Oh, I'm sorry. She's coming in a couple minutes late. There was a calm presence in that coffee shop. It was good. It was great. That's what we wanted. We want to come to the coffee shop. We want to get a good cup of joe. We want to just kind of put our shoulders back and go, ah. And she ruined it. And she wrecked it. But arriving early means you enter calm, you're not rushed, there's no chaos, there's no scrambling. See, this manager had it right. People who arrived just on time often spend the first hour waking up. Right? They come into the workplace, they're still waking up. They still got cobwebs in their head. They're still kind of, getting their bearings. I have no interest paying someone to wake up on my time. It sounds harsh, but this guy had it right. He said to me, he says, people who arrive just on time spend their first hour waking up. They spend that first hour settling in. They spend the first hour catching up. The day has already controlled them. Success, he said, isn't about effort. It's about it's about how intentionally you show up before pressure hits. Because don't you know, it's not a matter of when pressure comes, or I should say, it's not a matter of if pressure comes, it's a matter of when pressure comes. And if you're in a normal situation, whatever normal is, pressure comes every day. Success, this man told me, isn't about effort. It's about how intentionally you show up before pressure hits. The real lesson isn't about time here. The real lesson here, folks, is about mindset. I love that. That's a game changer. This is a game changer for your business. This is a game changer for your team. This is a game changer for you. And this is a game changer for every person on your team. If you are the leader and you have influence and people are showing up on time, take heed. The lesson here isn't about time. It's about mindset. Do you react to life or arrive, ready to lead your life? So the question that I have for you here that I'm going to leave you with is, stop asking, how little can I do to get by? Start asking, how prepared do I want to be? That's the kind of person that I want on my team. I think that's the kind of person you want on your team. And if the kind of person you have on your team is showing up just on time, I don't know if that's the kind of person we really want or we really need in our businesses to move us further, farther, faster. And that's why I say arriving on time at work should get you fired. And why arriving on time? It's already too late. Well, that's it for today. I'm going to leave that with you to chew on. Maybe some gristle there for you. I would love for you to chime in on the comments. Hey, let me know if you've caught this live. Let me know if you're catching the recording. And then let me know if any of this even resonates with you, if it makes sense with you. I'd love to hear what your about your circumstances, your situations, your experiences has been. And if I've challenged you on this, even if you think I'm a little hard-lined on this, I think we deserve, as leaders, to be a little hard-lined on this. See, again, it's not about making your people happy. It's about making your people better. And when you hold your people accountable to even little things like this, again, it's not about time management. It's about mindset. And when you can hold your people accountable to things like this, it forces them to become better. And when they become better people, better men, better women, better colleagues, better teammates, they not only make the business better, but they make their life better in every area of their life. And that's what you're actually doing. I'll leave it with you, but I want to hear your thoughts. Chime in. Let me know. Until next time, thanks for being with Al, Ask the Coach Live.